Hey there YouTube! Just got out of the bath, so forgive the hair, if you will. I've just been watching a couple of the responses to the recent reinforcement of Proposition 8 that occurred in California recently. And it's interesting to see that a lot of those who support Proposition 8 are actually calling it a victory for democracy. That's really rather interesting. I'd say it's a victory for mob rule, personally. It is an unprecedented occurrence in the history of US law, insofar as I'm aware, in which the majority have been given basically free rein to vote upon the rights of a minority. And insofar as I'm concerned, it sets a hideous precedent. An absolutely hideous precedent. As what Proposition 8 and its reinforcement have effectively said is that if you have moral qualms with the way someone lives their life, regardless of how that moral qualm manifests, be it in terms of their sexuality or their religion or whatever, and that moral qualm is shared by a significant enough number of people, you can effectively have whatever rights they do have taken away. Well, let's not beat about the bush here. The only reason this even came to the table in political terms is because of pressure from very particular religious institutions who want their very particular religious beliefs and concurrent prejudices enshrined and imposed in public policy. That's basically it. Were it not for pressure from religious institutions, Prop 8 would have never have occurred in the first place. It would never have come to the table. The notion of homosexual marriage would not be an issue. That is not to say, of course, that there were those who voted yes on Prop 8 who did so for reasons that are not religious. That is absolutely certain. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there. What I'm saying is that you would not have had the opportunity to vote on it at all were it not for the pressure from these very particular religious institutions. I would also be very wary of using the passage of Prop 8 as an excuse for condemning any and all churches and any and all religions as well. If you are bothered to do the research, you'll find that there are plenty of mostly smaller churches, it seems, who stood against Prop 8 and encouraged people to vote no on it. It just seems that those that were pushing for the passage of Proposition 8 and its reinforcement had a lot more money behind them. Now, there are plenty of people, Coctopus Prime and various others, who have dealt with the moral and legalistic vagaries of this situation. I'm not really going to go into that, as I feel I would just be parroting them. And what I am going to do is sort of explore my own thoughts and feelings on the matter. What I find particularly interesting about issues such as Proposition 8 are not their legal or cultural ramifications as such, although they are obviously significant. What I find interesting are the motivations behind those involved. With regards to homosexuality specifically, I've no idea. It baffles me why anyone who is not homosexual would have any opinion on it at all, since it is a matter of such incidence and has absolutely no quantifiable effect upon anyone's life whatsoever, apart from those who are practicing homosexuals. Now, I'm a bisexual man, which effectively means that I'm attracted to both men and women. In fact, I found another term floating around the internet the other day that actually describes my particular sexuality better, but it's one of those hideous buzz terms that I get the impression that people use when they want to appear different or trendy or whatever, and that annoys me. It's pansexual, which effectively means that you don't really take gender into account. You're attracted to individuals, and when you are, gender becomes incidental. That certainly expresses my particular sexuality. But I feel terribly privileged because I grew up in a household and in a culture where it was never an issue, one way or the other. I never went through any period of questioning or of self-doubt or of recrimination or anything to that effect. I very clearly remember when I found the label bisexual, I think it was about 13 actually, and I thought, that's what it is. Fine, whatever. I'll go and have a cup of tea now. But it does seem that those who have a negative opinion of homosexuality or bisexuality or any particular sexual status that is considered as deviant or whatever, regard individuals who describe themselves as homosexual or bisexual or lesbian in these very narrow and cartoonish ways. You are supposed to be cartoonish, flaming, effeminate queens, or you're supposed to be these hideously tortured, emotionally dysfunctional stereotypes, which is of course myopic and absurd. Of course you will find homosexual men and women who do fit these stereotypes, absolutely, in the same way you will find people in the black community who fit particular stereotypes, or in Hispanic communities who fit particular stereotypes, and so on and so forth. But I would argue that it is, even in those instances, it is never the whole story. It is still a synthesis and a simplification of the individual. And as I say, I find it not only bizarre that they harbour these preconceptions and have, for the most part, it seems very, 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 very little experience or knowledge of what it means to be homosexual, bisexual, whatever. But I find it bizarre that they have an opinion on it one way or the other, since it is an incidence, and I have never, ever, ever, ever come across one good reason as to why someone would have a profoundly negative opinion of homosexuality, or anyone who can quantify how it has any effect upon their lives. And with regards to Prop 8 specifically, there are no good justifications as to how the ability of homosexual men and women to marry one another will affect the lives of those who voted against it. There's not one good quantifiable reason. Every single reason that they vomit up is it's mealy-mouthed politicking nonsense that is purely designed to muddy the waters. I would have an iota more respect for them if they just said, "I hate fags." You know, much as I despise Fred Phelps and his ilk, there's an honesty to them, at the very least. You can know exactly where Fred Phelps and his like are coming from. I hate fags. Fine. I can just tell you to fuck off. But what kills me about the vast majority who voted yes on Prop 8 and who fought to reinforce it is if you associated them with Fred Phelps, they'd be aghast. They'd be, "Oh, no, that's absolutely not true." The only difference is the language they utilise. One utilises mealy-mouthed politicking nonsense, the other is absolutely straight down the line. I prefer to come face to face with Fred, to be honest, because I know where Fred is coming from. And I could deal with him very easily, than one of these hideous people whose prejudices usually express themselves thusly. "I don't mind such and such people, but..." They're the same people who would say, "I don't mind gay people, but I wouldn't want my son to be gay. I don't mind black people, I wouldn't want my daughter marrying one." I would much prefer to come face to face with someone like Fred Phelps, who is utterly open and unabashed in their prejudices, because then I could just set about combating them